Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 1, pregnancy and birth. We're going to talk about the hormones of pregnancy, what hormones play a role in all of this happening. We're going to talk about the pregnancy, the growing body in the woman. We're going to talk about things that we can expect during the pregnancy, how the fetus grows, and then we're going to talk about birth, the big day, labor and delivery. Much of this information you've already heard, you've studied, you've read about, and so hopefully this will be a good review for you to help cement some of the concepts. So to begin with, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So I mentioned that we're going to start with hormones. We're going to talk about hormones and what even triggers the female body to be able to become pregnant. So we've got female maturation. I want you to think about the little girl. She grows up, she goes through puberty. She can't get pregnant before puberty. And we're going to find out why. So as she grows, there is physical brain maturation taking place. As that brain grows and develops during puberty, the hypothalamus sort of wakes up, and the hypothalamus, you probably remember, is our major gland of the body. It's like the circuit board of our body. So the hypothalamus develops and starts sort of talking to other organs. So the hypothalamus releases a hormone called gonadotropin releasing hormone, okay, GRH, and basically gonadotropin releasing, if you break words down, all through this rotation, I'm going to teach you to break words down to understand things. So you got the gonads, okay, and in the female, the gonads are ovaries, and the male, the gonads are testes. So gonadotropin releasing hormone, and that hormone that's released from the hypothalamus starts talking to the anterior pituitary in the brain. The anterior pituitary starts sending out a little bit of FSH and luteinizing hormone. And those hormones, follicle stimulating, as you can understand, or just follow that term, follicles start growing. So this FSH starts growing follicles in the female body. The female body is born with all the follicles, eggs, follicles, when she's born, that she's ever going to have. And the luteinizing hormone is a hormone that kind of shoots out the egg. So these two hormones start being produced, and they start talking to the ovaries and the gamete producing gland, the ovaries. This causes ovarian activity, and it causes the ovary to increase or start secreting progesterone and estrogen. These two hormones are the hormones of pregnancy. Don't ever forget that. We're going to talk about several hormones, but these are what make the body capable of nourishing a fertilized ovum and growing it. All right. You can see this picture over here to the side. This is a picture of the pituitary, and you can see that the anterior pituitary produces a lot of different hormones, thyroid, and the ones that we're pretty much focusing on here is LH, FSH, and prolactin, okay, and GH. Posterior pituitary, which ones are we focused here on? We've got oxytocin and vasopressin. And the vasopressin hormone is the hormone that regulates our homeostasis in our body. So yes, that's important for everybody. You will be focusing more on that hormone and pituitary tumors in 4th semester. But know that for this semester, or for this class, we're going to focus on the oxytocin, the synthetic form known as Pitocin. All right. Okay, so the brain matures, and puberty happens around age 10 to 11 in the female body. And so the hypothalamus starts secreting GRH. The anterior pituitary releases FSH, LH. Then that talks to the ovary. Everybody's talking to each other now. That talks to the ovary, and the ovary says, okay, I'm waking up. I'm going to start producing estrogen and progesterone. And it is that estrogen that stimulates or initiates secondary sex characteristics and menses in the girl. That is why a girl does not have a period at the age of 5 years old. She's got to go through puberty so the ovaries mature and start producing estrogen and progesterone. So this is just a good infographic that says the hypothalamus wakes up, talks to the pituitary talks to the ovaries, and then the ovaries start producing FSH. They produce more FSH and LH, but they also produce estrogen and progesterone. So it goes back up to the pituitary in this sort of this positive feedback loop that occurs. Okay. And then this is just a picture of the 6 key hormones in pregnancy. So as you can see, we've got human chorionic gonadotropin. We talked about that. Progesterone, oestrogen, also more commonly known as estrogen, prolactin, and break down the word lactate. So prolactin, yes, is for the lactating breast. Okay, it prepares the breast. When somebody can actually have nipple discharge and they're not pregnant, and we want to then look at the pituitary, see if there's a pituitary tumor, because a pituitary tumor can also secrete breast discharge because of the prolactin that is normally secreted from that gland. Relaxin is a hormone that relaxes all of the organs in the body, in the female body, to be able to house and grow a fetus. We'll talk more about that. And then, of course, oxytocin. Oxytocin has a lot of roles. It helps the milk come forward, it helps labor get started, and it helps contract the uterus. So oxytocin has many uses in this semester, this class. Okay, anatomy and physiology of the uterus. You can see that two pictures of the uterus. This one has muscle fibers running in all different directions. So the uterus is a very strong muscle. It really is. When it stretches in all these different directions as well. It's a pear-shaped organ or a light bulb shaped organ. You can see that. The top of the uterus is called the fundus up here. The bottom is the cervix area. So we've got the vagina here. I'm sorry, this is the vagina. So we've got the vagina. This is the cervix right here. Endometrium, myometrium, perimetrium. So,
hello.
Hi,
Hello.
hi.
How are you? Hello.
Okay, so this is anatomy and physiology of the uterus. These are 2 pictures of the uterus. Looks like a pear-shaped organ or a light bulb. And you can see in this first picture, we've got muscle fibers that run in all different directions in the uterus. So the uterus is a very strong muscle. These muscle fibers that run in the different directions, as you can imagine, allows it to stretch and grow for the growing fetus. This picture on the right shows you the top of the uterus, which is the fundus. You've learned that. The fallopian tube, the ovary, and the different layers on the inside of the uterus, the endometrium, the myometrium, and the perimetrium. We are going to learn later about these layers and how they come into play when we talk about a placental disorder, where instead of just attaching to the endometrium, the placenta actually starts to grow into the layers of the uterus, so into the myometrium, into the perimetrium and beyond. That's a problem for mom. You don't need to remember that now, but when we talk about complications of pregnancy, we will cover that. You've got the cervix here. and the vagina. And if you look at the fallopian tube, what have you read that, think about what you've read that is the optimum area for the fertilized ovum to attach, okay? It actually is best for, I mean, not attach, but for it to become fertilized. It actually takes place in the outer 2/3 of the tube. It's called the ampulla. And so you can see that the ovum is released here. It's taken into the fallopian tube. And right about here is where it fertilizes with the sperm. And then it makes its way down into the uterus and implants. So what about the optimum area for the placenta to implant? That would be in this area of thick muscle. Okay, we prefer, and it works better for the placenta to implant in the fundal area or in the upper area of the uterus, one side or the other. We don't want it to implant down here because, again, that would create problems for mom, which we'll cover in complications. Okay, and this is another picture of the layers of the uterus. The uterus during pregnancy grows by both hyperplasia and hypertrophy. So again, it's kind of a remarkable organ to be able to grow and adapt to the growing fetus.